picture a Sunday morning. The sun is just coming up, the grass is covered in dew, the birds are chirping. You step up to the first tee, take a deep breath, and swing.
Right. It's a very peaceful image.
It is. It is the absolute picture of peace and serenity, well, right up until the club actually moves. Because the moment you initiate that swing, you are unleashing a violently fast, high-speed biomechanical event.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the greatest paradoxes in all of sports, really.
Yeah, I mean, you're asking your body to generate this massive amount of asymmetrical force in a fraction of a second.
And we just don't think about it like that. We associate golf with gentle leisure, walking in nature, wearing polo shirts. But if you look at the raw data,
Actual numbers are wild.
they really are. The sheer rotational velocity and the torque placed on the human skeleton during a drive, it's staggering. It rivals the physical stress of a baseball swing or a hockey slap shot.
But you're doing it from a static, bent-over position.
Exactly. And that static start is what makes it so demanding on the body.
And the casualty of all that hidden violence is almost always the exact same thing, the lower back. If you play golf or if you coach it, you know this firsthand.
Oh, yeah. It's universally the most frequently injured area. Doesn't matter if you're an amateur weekend warrior or a professional touring pro.
So we're dedicating today's deep dive to figuring out exactly why that is. We're sorting through a really interesting stack of clinical reviews, some Titleist Performance Institute research, physical therapy manuals, and a fascinating kinematic study.
There's a lot of incredible data in there.
There is. So our mission for you today is to decode the mechanics of why the golf swing wrecks your back, uncover the bizarre, invisible ways your body compensates for pain, and explore the practical fixes that you can actually use to protect yourself.
Which requires a fundamental shift in how we think about injuries, honestly. Because when your lower back hurts after a round of golf, the back is very rarely the actual root cause of the problem.
Right, it's more of a symptom.
Exactly. The lower back is just the victim of dysfunctions happening elsewhere in the kinetic chain.
Okay, so if the lower back is just the victim here, where does the actual crime happen? I imagine we have to look at the very beginning of the movement, right?
Right, do, yeah.
Like how you stand over the ball before the club even twitches.
Spot on. The research strongly emphasizes that your initial static posture dictates the physical limits of literally everything that follows.
So you're doomed from the start if you stand wrong.
Pretty much. We look at 3 distinct postures in these clinical reviews. The baseline is neutral posture, where your spine maintains its natural curves but is relatively flat from the tailbone up to the mid-back.
Okay, that sounds like the ideal.
It is, but then you have 2 highly dysfunctional setups. First is C posture, where the golfer is heavily rounded over the ball, shoulders slumped forward, looking like the letter C.
So basically the exact posture most of us have after staring at a laptop for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly, that desk worker slump. It translates right onto the golf course. And the other one is S posture.
That's posture. Okay, what does that look like?
That's where a golfer creates an excessive, dramatic arch in their lower back. Usually they're sticking their tailbone out way too far, which pinches the lower spine before they even start moving.
Okay, but just looking at someone, those just seem like stylistic choices. If I'm standing in a C posture, why does that actually hurt me once I swing?
Because it mechanically locks your joints. The goal of that neutral posture isn't just to look pretty for the cameras, It's to allow your anatomical joints the clearance they actually need to move.
Clearance, right, like making room for the swing.
Right. When your spine is neutral, your upper body can rotate around it freely. But if your upper back is fully rounded in a C posture, your shoulder blades are protracted. The vertebrae in your thoracic spine.
That's the upper back.
Yes,
Yeah.
your upper back. Those vertebrae are stacked in a way that drastically limits their ability to twist. You have physically locked the joint out of its normal rotational range of motion.
But the swing still requires you to turn your shoulders like 90 degrees. So if my upper back is locked because I'm slumping, where does that movement come from?
It forces the body to steal that mobility from somewhere else. And it usually steals it from the lumbar spine, which leads us to what is probably the single most destructive mechanical flaw in golf.
Which is?
The reverse spine angle.
Ah, okay. I've heard coaches talk about this, but let's define it clearly for everyone. What is the reverse spine angle mechanically?
It's defined as excessive backward bend or excessive left lateral bend of the upper body during the backswing.
So leaning left for a right-handed golfer.
Right. Basically, instead of turning your torso safely around your spine, you are leaning backward toward the target at the very top of your swing.
Okay, I can picture that.
Dr. Greg Rose, the co-founder of the Titleist Performance Institute, has this famous quote about the reverse spine angle. He says, "It's not if you're going to get lower back pain, it's when you're going to get lower back pain."
Wow, that is a bold guarantee. Why is leaning backward toward the target an absolute death sentence for your lower back?
Well, to understand why it's a guarantee, we have to look at the microscopic anatomy of your spine. Your spine isn't just this uniform tube of bone.
Right, it's made of different sections.
Exactly. The joints in your lower back are called lumbar facets. Their specific anatomical orientation is designed to allow you to bend forward to touch your toes or bend backward to stretch.
So forward and backward mobility.
Yes. They are physically not built to twist. In fact, each of those lower lumbar segments only has about 1 degree of rotational capacity.
Wait. 1 degree?
Degree, yes.
So if I need massive rotation to swing a golf club, and my lower back can only give me a handful of degrees in total.
Right. The lower back shouldn't be twisting at all. The heavy rotational lifting is supposed to be done by the joints naturally designed for massive rotation, which are your hips and your thoracic spine.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
But if your hips are tight or your upper back is locked in that C posture we talked about, you physically can't turn, yet your brain still knows you have to get the club behind you to hit the ball.
So the body just finds a way.
It does. To manufacture that missing rotation, your body forces the lumbar spine to extend backward and bend sideways. It throws you into the reverse spine angle just to complete the backswing.
Okay, so the back is splintering because the hips and upper back just aren't doing their jobs.
Precisely.
It makes me think of like a rusty door hinge. If the actual metal hinge, let's say that's your hips, is completely rusted shut and won't turn, but you grab the door and violently force it open anyway.
The wood framing is going to take all the stress.
Exactly. The wood around the hinge is going to crack and splinter under the pressure.
That is a great way to visualize it. The wood didn't fail because it was inherently weak. It failed because the hinge wouldn't rotate. And it actually gets worse on the downswing.
Right.
Because the reverse spine angle has you leaning toward the target at the top of the swing, your body now has to drastically throw itself backward and crunch down to the right just to get the club head back to the ball at impact.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you are taking joints that only have 1 degree of rotation, putting them in maximum extension, and then violently compressing them at high speed.
Which naturally begs the question, if the lower back is so vulnerable and tight hips are basically locking up the system, how do healthy golfers actually do it?
Generate speed, you mean?
Yeah. How do they generate 115-mile-per-hour club head speed without just snapping their steins in half? It can't just be massive arm strength. There has to be a safe engine in there somewhere.
There is, and it's a concept detailed in our research called proximal to distal sequencing, or PDS.
Yes, okay.
This is really the mechanical holy grail of generating effortless, safe power. It's essentially the summation of speed. An efficient downswing is not just spinning every part of your body toward the target as hard as you can.
Right, it's not just a chaotic spin.
No, it's a highly orchestrated cascade of energy.
Break that cascade down for me. How does the energy actually flow?
It starts proximally, meaning the largest segment closest to your center of mass. Your pelvis initiates the downswing, rotating toward the target.
Okay, hips go first.
But here is the critical part. As the pelvis reaches its maximum rotational velocity, it has to hit the brakes. It violently decelerates.
Wait, it stops. That feels counterintuitive.
Yeah.
If you want to swing fast, why would the biggest part of your body stop moving?
Because of energy transfer. If you want to crack a heavy leather whip, you don't just wildly swing your arm in a circle.
Right.
You throw the heavy handle forward, and then you snap your wrist back to stop the handle dead in its tracks.
Ah, I see. And when the handle stops, all that forward momentum has nowhere to go but down the leather. It accelerates as it moves into the smaller, lighter sections until the tiny tip breaks the sound barrier.
Precisely. In the golf swing, your pelvis is the handle of the whip. It fires, then it rapidly decelerates. That deceleration forces all its stored kinetic energy into the next segment, which is the torso.
And then the torso does the same thing.
Yes. The torso accelerates, peaks, and then it hits the brakes. That throws the energy into the arms. The arms accelerate, then brake, throwing the final massive wave of energy down the shaft and into the club head.
So if a golfer tends to slide their hips forward toward the target instead of, pivoting and bracing, they are essentially trying to crack a whip while standing on ice.
That's a great analogy.
The handle never actually stops, so the energy never transfers down the chain.
Yes, exactly. The sequence completely breaks down. And to get that pelvic deceleration right, The TPI research highlights the extreme importance of pelvic tilt.
How does the tilt factor in?
Well, at setup, your pelvis is slightly tilted forward. But at the moment of impact, an elite ball striker will move into a posterior pelvic tilt.
So tilting it backward.
Right. The analogy they use is to imagine your pelvis is a bucket full of water. At impact, you want to violently dump that bucket of water out behind you.
Tucking the tailbone under. That creates clearance, right?
Yeah.
If my hips are out of the way, my arms have this massive slot to just drop down through without my spine needing to contort to make room.
Right. You're making room for the club. But if you fail to dump that bucket and your sequencing breaks down, you run headfirst into a biomechanical event the researchers call the crunch factor.
The crunch factor. I mean, that sounds ominous just hearing it. What exactly is grinding together in the crunch factor?
The crunch factor is the dangerous combination of excessive torsolateral bending, meaning tilting your shoulders sideways toward the ground, combined with high-speed pelvic rotation.
Oh, that sounds like a bad mix.
It's terrible. Remember those lumbar facets we talked about earlier, the ones that really aren't designed to twist?
The 1 degree guys, yeah.
Exactly. The crunch factor effectively crushes the right side of those lower back joints down while simultaneously twisting them at 100 miles per hour. It literally shears the spine.
Just hearing the anatomical breakdown of that makes me wince. But this actually leads us to the most surprising piece of research in our stack today, I think.
The kinematic study.
Yeah, because if the crunch factor is so brutal, you would think we could just look at a golfer and instantly know they're destroying their back. But a study from J. Cho Med Central completely turns that assumption upside down.
It really does. It's a fascinating study. The researchers took 24 amateur golfers. 12 of them had a documented history of chronic lower back pain, and 12 were completely healthy.
Okay, so a clean split.
Right. They hooked them all up to advanced 3D motion capture systems and measured every possible angle of their swings.
And the obvious expectation here is that the guys with back pain are going to look like a biomechanical disaster on the screen, right? Lots of reverse spine angle, huge crunch factor, terrible posture.
That's what everyone would assume. But the twist in the data is profound. When the researchers reviewed the visible kinematic motions, like the actual video of the swings, there were absolutely no statistically significant differences between the healthy group and the injured group.
Seriously, nothing at all.
Nothing. Their trunk extension, their lateral tilt, their crunch factor on the screen, they looked identical.
Wait, I really need to push back on that.
Yeah.
If I have 2 golfers side by side, one with a totally healthy spine and one with a damaged lower back, you're telling me a high-speed camera can't tell the difference? How is that even possible?
It sounds crazy, I know.
And more importantly, if their swings look exactly the same, why is one guy in agonizing pain while the other one is fine?
Because video only captures the chassis of the car. It doesn't show you what's actually happening inside the engine.
Okay. The internal mechanics.
Right. The researchers realized that visual kinematics weren't enough, so they dug into the dynamometry data.
Yeah.
That's the actual muscle strength and internal firing patterns generating the force.
And that's where the difference was.
That's where they found a massive difference.
Okay, decode that engine data for us. How is the healthy group generating their power compared to the injured group?
Well, the healthy golfers relied on what we call a push-pull force couple using both legs. As they swung down, they were actively using bilateral knee extension and flexion.
So using both legs together.
Essentially, yes. They were pushing off the ground equally with both legs like pistons to rotate the pelvis efficiently. The workload was perfectly balanced.
But the guys with the history of back pain couldn't do that.
No, they weren't using that balanced leg drive at all. The data showed that their pelvic rotation was almost entirely reliant on their trail hip.
The back leg.
Right, the right leg for a right-handed golfer.
Yeah.
They were aggressively flexing and pushing off just their back leg and glute to violently force the hips to turn. They were entirely right-side dominant in their power generation.
Wow. It sounds like the body is effectively hot-wiring its own car. Like the brain senses that the lower back is compromised and unstable, so it realizes it can't use the normal balanced kinetic chain.
Exactly.
It completely subconsciously just bypasses the standard ignition system. It forces the muscles in the back leg to work extreme overtime just to yank the hips around, protecting the spine by shifting the load downward.
That is an excellent way to frame it. The researchers concluded that in a healthy golf swing, the lower trunk's primary job is actually stability, not mobility.
It's meant to brace, not twist.
Right. Your core acts as a rigid bridge to transfer that whip-like energy from the pelvis up to the upper body. But when pain is present, your nervous system prioritizes survival over efficiency.
It just wants to protect the spine.
Yes. It quietly rewires your motor firing patterns. Your body protects your spine by forcing your trail hip to become the engine. And the crazy part is, a swing coach might never see this happening on an iPad video review because the outer motion looks absolutely identical.
Which brings us to the most important question for you, the listener. If you can't trust what you see on a standard camera, and your body might be secretly hot-wiring your swing just to protect a tight back, what are you supposed to do?
How do you fix what you can't see?
Right, like how do you actually fix it?
Well, our physical therapy sources have a very clear philosophy for this, which is assess, don't guess. You have to evaluate the body's hardware before you try to rewrite the software of the golf swing.
Right, because if I go to the driving range and hit 1,000 balls trying to stop my reverse spine angle, it's just not going to work if my upper back is physically restricted.
It's physically impossible. You can't outpractice a mechanical restriction. If your thoracic spine is so tight from sitting at a desk that you can't rotate your shoulders without a club in your hand, your body will never let you achieve a safe backswing at 100 miles per hour.
You just can't fake that mobility.
Exactly. You must fix the underlying physical restriction first.
Which is actually a really empowering message.
Mm-hmm.
So many players get frustrated and think, I just have a fundamentally bad golf swing. But the reality is you might just have a stiff upper back that can be fixed with 10 minutes of stretching a day.
It's often that simple.
So let's talk about those practical fixes. Let's start with the swing mechanics side. The hack motion research gives some specific advice for combating the reverse pivot, which is heavily tied to these back pain issues.
Yes, the reverse pivot is a huge issue. It's when your weight wrongly falls to your lead side on the backswing and then traps you on your back foot during the downswing.
Like a seesaw going the wrong way.
Right. To combat this, the hack motion data suggests establishing proper hip tilt right at setup. If you start with your belt buckle pointing correctly, your pelvis has room to rotate safely.
And what else do they suggest?
Secondly, they emphasize pushing the club back straight down the target line on the takeaway to create width.
How does creating width protect the spine, though?
Because if you keep your arms wide and away from your body, you are creating an artificial spatial slot for the club to travel. If your arms collapse inward, your spine has to violently contort and bend backward to manufacture the room necessary to swing the club.
So wide arms protect the spine.
They absolutely do.
And from the physical therapy side, how do we fix the actual hardware restrictions? Like, how do we combat that desk worker C posture we talked about?
The physical therapists rely on targeted mobility drills. One of the best for the upper back is called snow angels on a foam roller.
Okay, how does that work?
You literally lie on the floor with a foam roller placed lengthwise, straight down your spine. Then, you slowly sweep your arms up and down the floor like you are making a snow angel in the snow.
I've actually tried that one, and it is intense. Because the roller is pushing up against your spine, it forces those locked thoracic vertebrae to open up and extend backward, which perfectly counters that slumped over desk posture.
It restores the clearance the joints need to rotate. But, mobility is only half the battle. Remember, the core's job during the swing is stability.
Right, the bridge.
Exactly. So the PT manuals heavily feature exercises like bird dogs and dead bugs. These are movements where you are on your hands and knees or flat on your back, extending opposite arms and legs outward while forcing your core to stay perfectly rigid and unmoving.
So you're basically teaching the trunk how to brace. So when you get over a golf ball, your core locks the lumbar spine in place, protecting those vulnerable little facets, and forces the newly loosened hips and upper back to do all the twisting.
Exactly. You are teaching your nervous system that it is safe to use the proper sequence again.
So, bringing this all together, we started with the peaceful image of a first tee shot and dove straight into the microscopic anatomy of your lower back.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did.
Yep.
We learned that the golf swing requires a very precise kinetic chain. If you want to stop your lower back from splintering, you actually need to ignore the back and look above it to the thoracic spine and below it to the hips.
It's all about the joints around the pain.
Right. Generating safe, effortless power is all about proximal to distal sequencing, cracking the whip by decelerating the pelvis, and building the core stability required to avoid that brutal crunch factor.
It really shows you that in biomechanics, isolation is a total myth. Every single joint is inextricably linked to the one above and below it.
It really is an incredible system. And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, drawing on that fascinating study about the muscle compensations.
It's a hot wiring study.
Yeah. We just discussed how our brains are capable of entirely rewiring our complex motor patterns just to hit a golf ball. The nervous system can quietly shift massive kinetic loads to a trail hip just to protect an unstable lower back.
Without us even knowing.
Exactly. It does this so flawlessly that we don't even consciously realize it's happening. If our bodies are that incredibly adaptive, that brilliant at hiding pain on the golf course, what other invisible compensations are happening in your everyday life?
That's a great question.
When you bend down to tie your shoe or reach overhead for a high shelf, are the little aches and twinges you feel today actually the result of your nervous system quietly working around a sprained ankle or a tight hip you forgot about 10 years ago? It really makes you rethink every movement you make. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our channel and share it with fellow golfers, coaches, and golf professionals. If there's a topic you would like us to research, analyze, and discuss in a future episode, feel free to send us an email. Our team will review your question, conduct in-depth research, and may create a dedicated podcast episode focused entirely on your topic. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to exploring the future of golf performance, coaching, biomechanics, and technology together.